Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis. I'm here with William Green today, and we have decided it's been a while since we made a joint video. So
It's several months.
Yeah, at least. It may have been like early in this year since the last time we did it. So we were texting back and forth, and we're like, hey, let's just do another video and just have a general, you know, status update for the collection and sort of like grab some of the more fun plants, and we'll just talk about them and just kind of geek out on each other's orchids. So
pretty much.
No real topic today. Just hanging out, talking about orchids.
If you're like me and you watch Steven's videos, he might be focusing on a specific plant, but then you see there's like 4 other plants over there, and you're like, oh, I want to wait, but I want to see. Tell me about, So that's kind of what we decided to do today. We kind of thought of about a couple plants from each other's collections that we wanted to see specifically and talk about. So we'll see how it goes. Who's gonna go first?
Go for it.
All right. So the first plant that Steven asked to see from my collection was this plant that he gifted me last spring, March of 2020. And it is this Cattleya Walcuriona. And as you guys know, Steve is a big fan of this orchid. And so, I have to say that in terms of growth, I am pretty happy with the growth on it. This year's bulb and leaf, these two is not quite nearly as big as this older one. Do have, some roots growing out of it here. It is in a plastic pot, and I find that that's probably not the best thing to have a Walkariana in. I do have it under the fan though, so it still dries out pretty quickly. But the frustrating thing for me, Stephen, is the same thing that's been frustrating for you. And hopefully we're going to see some flowers on this thing. Yeah. This, I don't know how well you can see. I know we were talking about focus earlier, but I think it's pretty out of focus. But you can see a little swelling right there at the base. There's another one here. I've got my sights set on this. If it's going to bloom this year, I feel like it's going to come out of there.
So that is, so first of all, Walkariana needs a stupid big root system to flower. It's a species that grows in a really dry area where rainfall is not guaranteed. So they really want to have everything in place before that plant is going to spend all that energy and potentially kill itself flowering if it happens to coincide with a dry season. So I would say that you've got a pretty robust looking root system in there. So hopefully that is enough to get blooms. It's the right time of year to have a spike starting. And the fact that it's there on the new growth, to me, means you might be getting a spike there. So I would keep an eye on that.
I'm always real curious about details in terms of timing. Like, this bulb completed probably, I think you could say about a good month ago. The sheath started to kind of dry up and it was done. So can you comment on, like, in general, how much time passes between the growth completing and you starting to see that flowering growth push out?
So for Walkariana, I would just in general, there's maybe 2 to 6 weeks between growth. So let's say your plant pushes out a new growth in like March, and then it's done by July, and then or even actually earlier, and then it could put out another new growth and then start on this one. And you would expect to see, 2 to 6 week, ideally 2 week time frame between new growths. So the fact that stopped, it kind of matured and you were able to peel off that sheath, what you said about a month ago, it is within that time frame. So, and this is a fall bloomer typically. So I think there's a really good chance, based on all of these little check boxes, that could be a spike.
Yeah. It's definitely a nice round little, something here. But we're going to see. So anyway.
And after this chat, I'm going to go check the mother plant, which is like this big, to see if there's anything growing.
Right. Well, I'm sure our day length here in Colorado has changed dramatically since, even a month ago. Sunset's a full hour earlier than it did. So it's, I know that we've talked about this plant being often triggered by shorter day length. So that could be a thing too.
Yeah. I got my fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic.
I mean, not to be an asshole, but I would love to bloom this before you do.
I would love to see blooms no matter where in the world they are. So
that's why you sent it to me. All right. Maybe you've got something. I think I asked to see your Cattleya Varsivixia.
Yes. So I have the another one, not the one that I've shown.
Oh, okay.
But I can run out and grab that one. I got a compote of Varsivixia Swap.
Oh, okay.
From HNR Orchids a couple of years ago. A year ago-ish. Maybe it was a year ago. No, this is too big for a year ago. But I recently got Varsivixia, and this is one of them. And they all pretty much look like this. So
you got several that look like that.
Yes, I have a whole compote of blue Varsivixia.
That looks what, two-ish years maybe from blooming? It might even bloom next year. Who knows?
We'll see what this little teeny nubbin that's popping out does. But yeah, I would say 2 to 3 years probably. But if the next one is this tall, and then the next one after that is tall, I think we could see blooms. And it's the same growing style that I use for everything. Just clay pot, Orchiata bark, and fertilizer baskets, which are pretty much empty this time of year. And that's it.
The reason I wanted to see that was because our good friend Arthur Chadwick, the cover of his book is Cattleya Varsivixia, and he mentions how it needs a little bit of special treatment in order to bloom it well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I've thought about that article a lot over the years, and then when you mentioned it, I think in one of the YouTube comments, it got me thinking about it again, and I'm like, God, I really dislike having special plants that get special treatment, but I think I might just have to bite the bullet and do it for Varsivixia because it's worth it,
Yeah, you're talking to somebody whose whole collection is special plants. So.
Yeah.
Don't move this one. This one's got it, so.
Yeah. Well, this one gets water, but this one doesn't.
Right. Yeah. Or tease it. What does he say? Like tease it gently with water during the first stages until the growth is 4 inches.
Spritz it.
Right.
Yeah.
Spritz it, talk, sing to it, stroke it lovingly. And then.
And to be honest, I had assumed, whatever, I don't need to do that. And, as I've sort of chronicled my problems with Varsivixia blooming over the years, that's probably what I need to do,
Well, I look forward to seeing that saga unfold because it's always fun to experiment and find out what actually works,
And I have noticed that since I moved the mature blooming plant, I cut it in half. I gave a piece to a friend of mine and we did a swap. But the piece that I have is in a more water retentive media, not by a whole lot. And then it got a little shadier. And that was all based on advice from Andrea Nielsen at the Orchid Digest live chat that was in, I think it was like October or November of 2020. Amazing set of speakers. I'm super excited for the next one. But she had mentioned that Varsivixia grows shady in Colombia, where she grows and lives. It likes a little more moisture. It's shadier than other Cattleyas, and I totally saw that with my collection. I've got them all in the same spot. Like I said, I don't have to give anybody special treatment. So the leaves were yellow. It looked heat stressed or sun stressed, and now that I've moved it into that new location, I think it's doing a lot better. So that could be part of it. And then, playing classical music in the springtime and spritzing its roots gently will certainly help.
That helps too.
Yeah.
All right. You also asked to see some compots that were doing well for me.
Yes, I love seeing
You like seedlings?
compots. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, so as I'm watching your videos, I feel like the most recent two, it seems like the seedlings have really taken off.
Yeah, it's weird.
Are big leaves, they're green, they're really happy looking. So that's why I mentioned those.
Yeah, probably because I tried to kill them all with Phyton 27 a couple weeks ago, and they're bouncing back. These are
thinning the herd.
Sorry,
you're just thinning the herd. You get only the strong ones survive.
It's true. It's true. That's why you get 100 plants, so you can end up with 5 that are, ironclad survivors.
Exactly.
These are Dawiana aurea. These are from HBI. Through another person. Another person bought them from HBI, and then they sent them to me when they realized they had too many seedlings.
HBI is Mick Fournier, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, these got sent to me back in April, May. They are in a tiny little clay pot. This is quickly becoming my favorite thing to put seedlings in. It's got a little sphagnum in there. You can see the little white roots growing around, and it's so nice to see new growth coming out the top, and it's bigger than the last one, and I don't know, it's great. I don't know how many plants are actually in here. At least 6.
A dozen.
Yeah, they're so
yeah.
I'm happy with them. Not a single crispy leaf anywhere. I don't really. Go ahead.
How are you growing them? One of the things that I watch your videos, and I see these really young plants and almost no media. And if I grew like that, they would all die because it's so hot. So are you watering a couple times a day, or is it just that you've got your temperatures aren't frying them and like I have here in Texas?
Nah, the temperature range is really mild. So this is just a wooden pot for succulents that has got some Bubblefilm seedlings in it. No medium, just sitting in there. But humidity in the tent ranges from 60 to 80%, depending on the time of the day. Temperature never gets higher than 28 Celsius, which is like 82, 83 Fahrenheit. And then at night, air conditioning kicks on in my apartment and brings it down to 67. That's like 18 degrees Celsius, I think. So I got a nice wide temperature range, high humidity, bright light, and no extremes. So it's a real kind of buoyant environment, and they seem to do okay in there.
You're watering once a day or every other day, or?
I water them in the morning and the evening.
Okay.
Generally speaking.
Twice a day.
In the summer, when I'm not working, I'm at home, I'm fussing over them a lot more, But typically, if I can give them 2 shots of water a day, then they're good. And these actually weren't doing that great. I had them in a plastic pot in sphagnum, kind of over in the corner. Always a bad recipe. And I was spraying them that often. And water seedlings have such tiny little crevices that water can find its way in and just sit. And then I just noticed all the new growths and everything were just turning brown and crusty, and it was like, it's water sitting in those places. It's stagnating, and they don't like it. So I always, I've decided drier is better. Maybe they don't grow quite as quickly when they don't have constant access to moisture, like the ones in sphagnum. You can just tell they're a little denser, a little greener. But I definitely feel like once these roots get to a nice certain length, the roots are going to create their own little moist habitat in there, and it's better. A little too dry is definitely better than too wet. Too wet spells death for the orchids.
I think that's the key to growing not only small plants but just all these orchids is figuring out your the little things like that can A, prevent rot, or B, promote growth, or ideally both.
Exactly. Like you said, if I took my plants as they are and put them in your conditions right now, be a totally different story.
Yeah, they'd be dead in a day or two. Yeah, exactly. It would just be crispy and brown.
I feel like I requested to see some seedlings on your side too, Stephen.
Yeah, I have a compot of Cattleya Triumphance, which of course is Rex by Doiana. And this is also from HNR, and this was treated, so it's a Thoran plant. So ideally, this will be, polyploid, bigger flowers, a little slower growing possibly, but more show quality flowers, I guess.
Sure. Big, full, thick flowers. Did you happen to see that a Triumphance was awarded last month in Chicago? I think it was Chicago, but if you look in the AOS awards, there was a Triumphance recently awarded, and the guy named it HNR.
Oh, really?
So what does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, HNR, I think, is the only one. No, there's a couple of groups putting Triumphants out right now in the US, but Harry and Roy's breeding program is just so amazing. That it's well worth it. That's cool. I'll have to look that up. I haven't seen that award, and I'm curious to see that flower to know what maybe this little guy will look like.
Totally. Have you noticed any kind of anything special about them? Do they grow? Have they been pretty good growers or? No,
actually. I think that's my fault though. When I got them, they came in like perlite. I guess H&R grows them in perlite, so they can hit them with water a lot and they'll still dry off fairly quickly. I was worried that it was the wrong time of year to repot them because it was summertime. Okay. And I left them like that. And I think I kind of fried them a little bit. And when they're, when they're this big and you fry them, as you well know, it can take a little while for them to bounce back. So this is actually one of the larger ones.
They can bounce back. It just takes them a minute.
Check this out. See how wiggly it is.
Yeah.
So after this call, I'm gonna tie this, use some zip ties and tie this guy down so that he's not flopping around in the breeze.
You're showing him who's boss.
Yeah. Grow or die.
Yeah, 83.8. You want me to share my screen and show it?
Yeah, let's see it.
Get in trouble from the AOS.
No, that's all public information.
Let's see here.
Can you
see? And they took a bunch of pictures.
Look at that lip.
Yeah, just fantastic.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great.
And they showed the whole plant too. Yeah, totally. That's some nice stuff.
I don't know that H&R's had seedlings out for that long. So I wonder if they got a division.
That's what I thought was really interesting about that. I was like, I know people are just getting seedlings from this cross from H&R. So is this a second release maybe, or?
Who's the grower?
William Rogerson.
No.
In Chicago. He shows a lot of Cattleyas. I've seen his name a lot of times on the awards. But Triumphance this is only the 4th or 5th Triumphance to ever be awarded. It's got very few awards, but I think that's going to change with all these seedlings coming up.
Yeah, that must have been a division. I know that Harry doesn't like to show his plants. The only thing the thing that's worse for him than not getting an awarded plant is getting like an HCC, because he thinks that brings the quality of the flowers out, and the flowers that he puts out in his breeding program are so amazing. So I think that he's worried that it'll, getting that HCC might bring the standard, at least in his mind, of his plants down. So he doesn't like to show them.
Oh, okay.
So maybe that's why this other person in Chicago is like, I don't like that. I want to show this.
Right. And he names it H&R, so he wants them to get credit for it. Or maybe he knows they don't. Who knows?
It sounds like there's an interesting backstory there. So maybe we can ping that guy and see what the story is.
Yeah. Let's see. Last thing you asked to see today were some Bubblefilms. So I got a couple different ones to show you. This one's just like this is actually one of the flasks that my Cattleya Walcuriona came in the spring. But I just have a little bit of moss and bark and stuff in the bottom there. This is Bobophil lepidum. And it does have a spike coming on here. These things, Bubblefilms, they hate to be disturbed. They hate to be repotted. Their roots are so skinny and thread-like, and they like regular water and drying out cycles. Some of them can just kind of be moist all the time, but man, you disturb those roots. I got this plant as a cutting 3 years ago. Finally now,
wow,
deciding to put out a bloom. So it is a long time before they finally, kind of like what you're saying about Walkariana, they want that root system well established before they're gonna invest in a flowering cycle.
So what made you pot it that way? That's an interesting.
Good question. I just was like, well, what have I got laying around the house?
I do that more often than I care to admit, but yeah.
Right. I know that Bobophil. So I'm finding plastic pots not a great choice for Cattleyas. Not a bad choice for Bubblefilms, though. Retains moisture, takes a long time to dry out, kind of keeps a humid environment around the plant as well. This isn't too far from the fan in my tent, so it gets air blowing around it. So air kind of gets down in there. I think this might even work in a windowsill situation because, again, you've got like a kind of a terrarium type thing going on here. And there are holes. There are holes in the bottom so that I can, give it a good rinsing when I want to. But yeah, pretty much it was just convenient.
I mean, those are some big, happy, dark, or not dark, like perfectly colored leaves. I'd say that's a happy plant.
Again, just an experiment. But
I love it when the experiments go right.
Yeah, seems like everything was there. The only issue will be, will the little spike be able to find its way out? I hate it when they like run into the wall and then they start going down. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
And then the other bulbos I wanted to show you is this. This is actually two different bulbos in here. And these are really small ones, but let's see, these down here, there's like a little group of them down here. This is Bobophil cattenulatum. It blooms whenever it wants, which is nice. A lot of my larger bulbos are very seasonal bloomers, but these little guys, they bloom 2-3 times a year. They're just, you can see, looks like little hairs coming out here. The bloom spikes come out. They have these little like trilobed flowers that open up they open in the morning, they close at night. They open in the morning, they close at night. They open in the morning. Third or fourth day, they fall off and they're done. But it's just a cute little bulbo. It's a really cute little thing. That's then the real wiry one is Bubblefilm crocium. Crocium, I first saw a few years ago. I was visiting a grower in Kentucky where I'm from, and she had them growing. She had it just hanging, and it had grown into a ball, just a ball of this thing. And it was blooming in, I think, February was when I went, and the flowers come out on a long, skinny spike. And then it's just an explosion of bright yellow flowers, almost like a Bobophil medusae, but they don't hang, they stick out more. It just looks like a sunburst, and it was just covered in them. And I was like, she offered me a piece, and I was like, oh no, I've got too many orchids, of course not. And then it stuck in my head. It's like 3 years later, I texted her, and I was like, hey, remember that? She's like, oh, I remember. You said you didn't want it. So she gave me a little shit, but I ended up, she sent me some nice pieces. And once again, they put out a new growth that was, a quarter the size of the previous growths, but those have rooted and we've got new growth coming. So hopefully it's going to be established. It's going to get back up to size. And I'd really love to show you blooms on this thing this winter, because they are really something. That's
cool. I've seen growers. So you described this sort of mounted orchid that's just a ball.
Yeah.
And I've seen in Hawaii, there was this person, I can't remember the name, but they would have these mounted orchids like this, and they would grow dendrochilums like that, or Dendrobium latigesii, sort of all these little ball forming types of orchids. And there was a swivel at the top. So the whole thing could move.
Oh, nice.
And so that caused the plant to grow in this sort of ball-like direction. And I was kind of wondering if you would notice that on this person's as well.
She had them potted in like a little basket about this size, and then had just hung it. And then over the years, the plant had just created this ball around it.
Huh. That's cool.
Marilyn, I think it's pronounced Ledoux. She does Windy Hill Orchids in Missouri. In her greenhouse, she has Bubblefilm balls that are like 3, 4, 5 feet across. I'm just enormous, just hanging like big, pieces in her greenhouse. So yeah, they really are impressive when they get to that size.
That's cool. Yeah. I remember at Exotic Orchids of Maui, when I lived in Hawaii, they had one of those, the ghost orchids from the Caribbean. And it was the size of a door, and it was this thick. So imagine, at first I thought it was like the moss that comes down from the trees. And I got closer, I was like, those are all just roots, And she's like, oh yeah, this thing blooms. And she gave me a cutting, and I was able to bloom it. And it was really cool. And to just see those specimen plants, it's amazing.
That ghost orchid is definitely on my list. They have recently made a cross with the Floridian ghost orchid, and then like one of the Caribbean ghost orchids that I think it's called Little Ghost is the name of the hybrid. And Diamond Orchids was offering them on eBay, and I was just kind of grinding my teeth watching these things go up for sale. But it's like they're notoriously difficult to grow. But I would think that a first generation or primary hybrid is what I'm trying to say of two similar species might be a whole lot easier to grow. So definitely have my eyes on that.
The Caribbean species are way easier to grow than the Florida one. And then you impart some of that hybrid vigor. And I bet it's pretty easy to grow.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you might want to give it. I don't know. The conditions that you described in your tent sound like they would do well, especially if you're watering twice a day.
Yeah. For me, it's just it's like, okay, if I'm going to get that plant, which plant am I going to get rid of? Because we have a net zero effect here.
Yeah. Every orchid grower has to make that choice.
All right, sure. Is it time to move on to catasetum types?
Yeah, we can. Let me grab this Fong Sing here. So everybody watching, William gave me his Fong Sing. It was before COVID, so I guess it was like 2.5 years ago.
Christmas 19, right? Maybe?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. I guess it was just before COVID.
2 or 3 months before COVID hit, yeah.
Yeah, and so I've been growing it. You were able to get 2 spikes at a time, which just boggled my mind. And I've only been able to do 1 since then. So I was hoping I'd get 2 this year, but I'm kind of wondering if these are all going to be girls.
I wonder, because that's not growing like I remember the flowers. It's growing more upright, but I don't know. Who knows? I mean,
as they get bigger, the spike might start to lean down, but we'll see. I don't know.
So do you think that female flowers would be less pretty, less interesting?
The female flowers for the catasetums are always these sort of green hoods. But more and more judging centers are awarding female flowers. So I'll, if the timing is right, I'll definitely bring this one in and see if we can get some. But I mean, I don't generally have a whole lot of complex hybrids, but this, last year when it bloomed, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And the flowers are just these huge, huge things. And the color is intense. I absolutely love this one. And it seems to like my conditions.
I would say it looks pretty happy. It is probably 3 times bigger. The last bulb. The newest bulb is like 3 times bigger than the last bulb on that thing. Man, that is just insane.
I think the last one you had was this one, and you got 2 spikes out of this one.
Yeah, they kind of grew out the sides.
You were doing something really good. Or maybe the last one you had is this one.
I think it was it's a bowling pin shaped one.
Yeah. So it was bigger.
Well, couldn't be happier to see it in enjoying its new home like that. Yeah, it looks great.
Roots there.
That's one thing about those hybrids, man. They are tough.
Cranking. Yeah, they're kind of bulletproof, a lot of them. Did you grab that Cycnokeys Coopery?
Yes. Yeah. So SVO, Sunset Valley Orchids, put out a list in late June, and I'm usually pretty good about not looking at them, but everybody on the internet was like, "What did you get? What did you get?" And I was like, "Well, I'll go see what he's got." And I saw that he had this Cycnokeys Coopery on there, and then he does a really good job. Yeah, exactly same one. Exact, he puts it on there. FCC parent by AM parent, and he's got pictures of them. Because there's pictures online of these brown chocolatey flowers, and of course they're supposed to be fragrant. And I caved. I had to get one. And then Steven makes a video saying that they like to die.
They are notorious for just upping and dying. They're sort of a live fast, die young kind of a group. But there's ways around it. I've got a mature plant that's spiking here. I'll show you in a second. But they can get big. And,
oh, really?
They can't do that quickly. So you can't keep them alive. But it's such a cool species. It's one of the foundational species that so many breeding programs are based on. I mean, the first primary hybrid that became popular was called Jean E. Monnier. And that was Jean Monnier, Gene, named it after his wife, Jean, Gean, Monnier. And that is a Bartiorum by Coopery. And both of those species, like Coopery, we really only see the dark brown ones these days, but they can be green. They can be in between. There's actually, it's a pretty variable species.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So, so their offspring, the hybrids, can be a really cool array of colors. And Bartiorum's got some variability too, but these are going to be amazing. I think
I can't
dark
wait.
Ones are, and then I hope he comes out with some green ones soon. I would love to have some green Cooperies.
Is that in the works, or you're just kind of crossing your fingers?
I don't know. Probably will be in Texas in October. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've said that these particularly are quite sensitive to water, especially late in the growing season or getting towards dormancy. What should I be looking for? Is it just the typical signs of yellowing leaves, dropping leaves, or do I need to be even more conservative with water as we get to the end of the growing season?
I wouldn't worry about it rotting on you until the leaves are all gone. And then even then, just keep it dry and warm. It should be fine. I don't know if you can. Oh yeah, this camera's pretty good.
Yeah.
So you can see these little lines here.
Yes.
When it's actively growing, they tend to be whitish. Mm-hmm. And then this time of year, you can see that they're getting a little darker, turning a little darker green. And then at some point, you'll see some yellow coloration get in there. And that's when you'll really not notice the leaves starting to drop. So that's sort of that's when the plant is thinking about going dormant, and then it typically does. Yeah, I mean, these could bloom. They probably won't, but keep an eye on the spots where
I'd be surprised if this guy blooms. He's still pretty small. I think you definitely got a bigger one than I did.
Yeah,
you can see the bulb starting to swell up, and so maybe next year.
This one will bloom from the upper axils of the plant. In fact, I'll show you on this one.
All right,
you can see it's going to be a girl.
Oh, you can already tell?
Yeah, it's giant.
So the female flowers are bigger?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And they last for like a month. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they, the Cycnokeys female flowers are more attractive, I would say, than the Patacetum female flowers. So it's not as much of a disappointment. I have found this year that I'm getting almost all females.
Really?
Excuse
That
me.
means your plants are happy, right?
Yeah, so I got to torture them a little bit. I really think it's just switching over completely to the gyms purely organic is just causing everything to go bonkers for growth. So next year I might have to cut back on fertilizer if I keep getting female flowers, or start a breeding program. Who knows? But you can see actually the lines.
Oh yeah, it looks a little yellower down towards the bottom, and
they are a little yellower. So this one's a little farther along in its desire to go dormant. And then, sorry, that leaf is covering up. Let me see if I can zoom in. And you can see, so if this was a bunch of male flowers, there would be a bunch of points. It would look like a bunch of sort of points. They're all stacked on each other. And you would see that those would be a bunch of male flowers. The fact that this is really only one, it looks like one bud, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have one big girl.
Really? So female flowers are even fewer in number.
Fewer number, larger, they last longer. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that doesn't seem like a bad trade-off. And they're also still fragrant?
They are, yeah.
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 Okay, great. I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
Yeah, yeah. It's a nice plant. The males of this one are a dark, they're the chocolatey color, and they're very pointed, the petals and sepals. So, they're not going to win any awards, but it's a very unique shape. I like it. I'll poke around my files to see if I can add a photo to this so everybody can check out the male flowers here.
Cool. Stephen, I think we've run way past the time that we said we were going to do. I think we were aiming for a half hour, but that's okay.
How long has it been?
Well, it's almost 10 o'clock, so it's been closer to an hour, I think.
Good God. Happens every time we start geeking out.
Start geeking out. It just happens.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If any parting words or?
Let's do it again.
Okay, let's do it again. Yeah, I would love to do something more regularly. So we gotta figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, if you enjoyed our video, would like to leave a comment or ask a question, please do on Steven's channel or my channel. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. See y'all later and have fun growing. And if you just have general questions about Cattleya or Cattleya seedlings or Cattleyas, definitely leave comments and questions. Both William and I really enjoy answering those comments and questions. So.
Yeah, Steve, whenever they ask me something that I think you are better equipped to answer, I'm like, you should go check out Steve's channel.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Yeah, we'll do it again soon.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.